right, now listen up.
3, 2, 1.
It's showtime.
That's great.
This is ridiculous.
99.3 The Truth.
You can't handle the truth right now.
Ooh.
That's the stupidest thing I ever heard.
Let's do it.
Hit it.
It's time for Mac's World.
And here we go.
Everybody, let's get it started. Let's get it started.
Call Mac 244-0077 or text 809-0993.
It's showtime, everybody. Showtime.
Exclusively on 99.3 The Truth.
Good afternoon. It is 3:07 on a Friday afternoon. It's June 24th in the year 2016. I'm Chris Rohloff, normally here with J. Michael McCoy. This is Mac's World Live. I am going to drive the ship today as best I can without Mac here. We've got Frank with us.
So can we say this is a hostile takeover?
This is, it's a pretty mellow takeover, but I tell you what, we've got a lot planned for the next 2 hours, an incredible amount of stuff. The question on the table from my vantage point today for the next 2 hours, I want you to tell me the answer to this question. Has the evangelical right, has the moral majority become in and of itself a hindrance to the spread of the gospel here in the United States? That's the question I want an answer to today. We're going to talk about that pretty much for 2 hours. We got a lot of other great news to cover as well. Of course, the big national news story right now is this Brexit thing. Mm-hmm. That's the big news. But so we're going to talk about that. Tom Coates is going to call in and give us a little bit of his take on it. Kind of a show teaser for him next week, Tuesday. They're going to dive in deep in this hour on this broadcast. Next week, Tuesday, Tom Coates, Ed Brown, Mac, Frank, Bob, everybody will be here next Tuesday, and they're going to dig deep into what the real effects of Britain leaving the European Union are going to have on us. So that'll be next Tuesday. But Tom will call in, and we'll go to him in just a few minutes. Let me set up the show. Of course, Chris Rohloff. Frank is here, and he's wearing two hats today. Frank, you're going to be watching the chat, and you're going to be Frank.
That's right.
And that's hard enough.
That's a full-time job, being that.
Being Frank is a full-time job. Jeb is producing the broadcast, and I think Tom has called in, so we'll go to Tom Coates in a little bit. But for my first hour, our special guest is Shane Vanderhart. Caffinated Thoughts.
Good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you. You're a regular radio guy now.
I try to be. Yeah, I think they're having me on next week, too, so...
I tell you
what,
you
guys get a double dose.
Double dose, yeah. And you're on the air 99.3 every Saturday at 8 a.m. And then again we rebroadcast that at 6 p.m. on Saturday. So
yeah, excited about our show this week. We're going to have Michael Ferris on to discuss why he thinks the Christian right is dead. And then,
good.
And then a guy from American Principles Project, Terry Schilling, who attended the Trump powwow with evangelicals. So try to bring in both perspectives.
Yeah, we're going to try to do that this hour too. Not to scoop you by any means.
That's all right.
I don't think that we will, but we're actually going to have Michael Ferris here via his written word. We're going to kind of read from him, quote from him a little bit. A little bit later on this hour, Barb Heki is going to call in, and she was there, and she's going to tell us her experience, what she experienced there. Bob Vanderplatz was actually there as well, and we're going to read some of his thoughts a little bit later on. But right now, I believe this is Tom Coates. We're going to go to Tom. Hey, Tom, here's what happened, man. Big thing happened last night. This referendum on the United Kingdom's membership in the European Union. They voted 51%, just almost 52% voted to leave the European Union. So Britain is now an independent country. I guess they've always been, but they're not associated with the European Union anymore. And you know what this means to us. So what does it mean to us, Tom?
Well, I kind of sound like a prophet. I called in yesterday and talked about this and what would potentially happen if they did leave. And you're right. The overall vote was about 52 to 48. Actually, the Great Britain, what we think about the island, actually was 53-47. But you also throw in Scotland and Northern Ireland and Wales in that. Scotland, in particularly, voted they wanted to stay. Scotland's there's givers and there's takers, and they're a big taker. Well, Britain is more of a giver, and kind of funny because Scotland was threatened with being kicked out of the EU a few years back when they voted to leave Great Britain, the United Kingdom, and now they're saying they want to vote again because they want to leave, and they think that the EU's got more money to suck off of than the Great Britain does. So There's a lot of things going on here, guys. I had a lengthy discussion, Chris, with Ed Brown, who's coming on the show Tuesday. Ed is a sharp guy, goes to Europe every year just got back from 3 weeks and did a lot of digging, and he's observed a lot of things we were talking about, and I won't be a spoiler alert and tell you some of the stuff that he told me, but should be an interesting show next Tuesday from 4 to 5. We'll have Ed Brown, the CEO of the Iowa Clinics, but at least half the show I anticipate, guys, being taken up with this subject about the Brexit, how he believes that it may just be the start of a series of dominoes that fall over there and ultimately will put the kibosh on the EU. That will probably take years. And by the way, this Brexit thing is not immediate. It will take, it looks like, about 2 years to negotiate and get untangled from them. But it was a clear enough vote that Cameron stepped down, their prime minister over there. The mayor of London is welcoming the million refugees to London. London voted to stay, and he is at least tacitly threatening to have London secede from Great Britain.
Really? That would be a wild thing right there. That would be incredible.
I'm thinking that's not going to happen.
No, he's the first Muslim mayor ever elected to a major city over there.
Is that okay? I guess I didn't know that. I did not know that he was a Muslim.
Yeah. Yes.
There's a lot I don't know.
London's been dealing with a lot of Muslim refugee issues, allowing Sharia law in some of their Muslim districts as well. It's crazy, and I think this vote had a little bit to do with some of that anyway, if not.
Yeah, Tom, that's what you kind of said yesterday when we talked about this a little bit, as you called in sort of prophetically, of course, knowing that this was going to be a big deal. Immigration is one of the key issues here for this Brexit vote. People voted to leave the EU because they didn't like the free movement, the no visa required of people traveling and all that kind of stuff. And so they wanted to secure their borders. And Tom, before I let you go, do you think this is really, the buzz is, the way it's even being reported and the way I'm feeling about it is this kind of really does echo the sentiment here in the United States for people that are excited about Trump. Do you think this vote in Britain emboldens Trump supporters to say this is what we want with Trump?
Oh, there's no question that there's a lot of echoes from what's going on in Britain and Europe as a whole. Ed will talk about some things that he observed in Belgium, Switzerland, some of the issues with Muslim immigration, and of course, yesterday we know that it's much like Clinton and Obama and the elites and the big money that backed them were backing this vote to try to keep Britain within the thing and continue to perpetuate this. Mm-hmm. And you'll notice that Clinton and Obama both lined up quickly with them. They did things to try to rig this deck. They put out phony opinion polls that showed that the public sentiment was going to stay. They put big money in with the bookies, millions and millions of dollars, just to make it look like it was a done deal. It was 75-25 with the betting odds up and through yesterday that they were going to stay. But the bets didn't fall down that way. There were more bets that they would leave, but the big money, the power brokers, the moneyed elites, over there, they were trying to rig the deck every way they could. That woman was shot out of Parliament this last week, and they tried to tar all the people that wanted to leave as, well, over here they call them redneck, gun-toting, Bible-thumping hillbillies, and that's how they tried to characterize it. And Ed tells me that if she hadn't have been shot, the margin would have been far greater. They were partially successful in playing on emotions and shaming some of the people into either not voting that way or to staying home. But it was a record turnout. Over 70% turned out. This is not a light turnout, off-year type of an election. This was one where they had record turnout and the people spoke, and it was the working class, older people that are tired of the elites running the show, and that might be a forerunner of what we're going to see here come November.
Tom Coates is our guest on the phone right now. This is Max World on 99.3 FM. And Tom, you can't guess, but Frank does have something he'd like to say.
Tom.
I'm glad to hear Frank. Hey, Frank.
Hey, buddy. And this also has a lot to do with, I would imagine, the 3 or 4 countries, Germany being the main one, that's basically holding the whole European Union up with their economy. And when 2 or 3 of these major players pull out, the Greases of the world, those things are just going to collapse, right?
Well, you're exactly right, Frank. And I mean, it's just like what we're dealing with Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is bankrupt. They want us to wipe off their debt. And some people say, if we just wipe off your debt, you don't learn anything. Individuals are given things, and they're not forced to live by rules and learn from their mistakes. They continue to make them. Same way with countries. And you get the Greases of the world, as you're saying, that have had their hand out for bailout after bailout, and they really haven't had to do the kind of tough things to get their budgets balanced. Someday we may have to learn that same lesson. We've been the international reserve currency since the Bretton Woods Agreement back in '44, and we've been given a tremendous additional advantage over we not having to balance our budget. But the day is coming where we'll have to eventually realize that you can't spend more than you take in.
But, Tom, wasn't it the idea that Greece had too many giveaway programs? And that's the reason, and doesn't that teach our country a lesson that we can't support everything?
Hey, Tom, we're just about up on the break, but hey, you guys, we're going to have a deep conversation about this Tuesday with Tom Coates and Ed Brown. Mac will be here, and you guys are going to get deep into it. Tom, thank you so much for calling in and weighing on in this. We'll be back in just a little bit where we're going to continue to ask the question, has the evangelical right or the moral majority, has it collapsed? Was it a hindrance to the gospel? Are we glad that it's gone? Are we sad that it's gone? Is it gone? I want to hear from you right here on Mac's World Live. I'm Chris Rohloff sitting in for Mac on 99.3 FM, The Truth.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common, everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
It's 3:20 in the afternoon on a Friday. I'm happy to be here on a Friday. This is Mac's World Live. I'm Chris Rohloff. I'm normally here with you every day. The only difference is Mac's not here. Frank is here. He's watching the chat. He's got two hats on. You got one more hat than Bob Montserrat, the cat in the hat, watching the chat. You got two hats because you got the Frank hat on and you got the Bob hat on.
But I don't actually wear a hat.
You are a hatless, two-hatted man. Is that confusing enough? Jeb is producing. Shane Vanderhart is our special guest for the first hour. Shane, it's so good to have you with us.
Good to be here.
You're a smart guy. Our question for this first, really for the next 2 hours, is really about the evangelical right, the moral majority. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because Michael Ferris said this week on Tuesday, he said that Trump's meeting with over 1,000 evangelical leaders marks the end of the Christian right. So Michael Ferris has declared the evangelical right, the Christian right, dead. According to that headline, anyway. I don't know that that's not just hyperbole, but we'll get into that, of course.
A little controversial.
A little controversial of a statement, but we're going to get into that, and we're going to say, I have a question for you. Do you think that the conservative evangelical right, the moral majority, has been a hindrance to the gospel spreading in the United States? I want to hear from you. You can call in and answer that question at 515-244-0077. That's 515-244-0077. Or you can send us a text on the Service Legends Truth text line at 515-809-0993. We're also going to, this hour, be giving away tickets to the Family Leader event, Family Leadership Summit, coming up Saturday, July 9th. I'll let you know when you can call in for that, so stay tuned for that. But also, before we get going on that subject, Shane, I want to share a little. It's a Friday.
It is.
I want to share a little bit of good news because, to be honest with you, this is going to be a heavy, very difficult 2 hours. So I want to share a little bit of good news. Was it now 2 Saturdays, Father's Day weekend, I went to a Christian concert down near Norwalk. It was the Connection Music Festival.
Okay.
I went down to that, and the good news is, this was the third year, and over 3,000 people attended this thing. It's absolutely free. Colton Dixon was the headliner. I don't know if you know who Colton Dixon is.
I don't.
He was, this last season of the American Idol, he placed 7th, but he's a Christian, and there were many other, Sanctus Real performed, Bread of Stone performed. There were some other artists, Jeff Arundel performed, who is a local guy. Incredible event. I loved it. I'm really looking forward to next year. It's absolutely free. 99.3 is going to do whatever we can to promote it next year. I'm very excited about it. But I wanted to share this. On their Facebook page, they said, thanks to all who volunteered, donated, and sponsored, helped spread the word here and came out Saturday. Though the event brought thousands to get their joy on, that was kind of their slogan.
Okay.
What's most important is that 12 people accepted Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior during that festival.
Cool.
That's 12 more people who recommitted their lives to Jesus. That's 24 people who we now know. What? That's 24 people. 12 people? 12 recommitments and 12 salvations. That's where the math comes in. But anyway, that's really cool. You know, this is a free event, and this is why Christians a lot of times do this, for an opportunity for people who need to get their faith reignited, do that.
Sure, and there are some people that may come to a concert, but they wouldn't necessarily darken the door of a church.
Absolutely.
So it's a way to, spread the gospel message. A lot of people right now, they feel more comfortable inviting a friend to an event where they know they're going to hear the gospel than they feel comfortable necessarily sharing the gospel themselves.
I think that's still very much the case. Unfortunately, I would say that is the case. Maybe we can overcome that fear. But I just wanted to share that little bit of good news and then some weird news, and then we'll get on to the heavy stuff. Now, I think this is really great. The headline is funny. Do you know who Tony Robbins is?
I do.
The motivational speaker, right? The big
I know
smile.
what story you're going to share now.
The headline is, dozens burned after firewalking event at the Tony Robbins seminar.
I'd say, well, duh.
Yeah. So here's what happened, right? So at these motivational speaking events, this is not a religious thing at all. This guy's just a pep rally. You're the best. You can achieve your dreams kind of guy. They have these firewalking things where you actually walk across the hot coals. Well, apparently as part of the motivational, this was what the Dallas Fire Rescue spokesman, this was in Dallas, so Jason Evans said. He said, apparently as part of the motivational event being held at this location, several people attempted to walk across hot coals. As a result, a large number of these people sustained burn injuries on their feet and lower extremities. The ambulances were called. There were paramedics on the scene. It was quite ridiculous.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah,
don't walk across.
Generally not recommended. Has he done this before?
Apparently, they do this almost every time. And here's what's really fascinating.
What's wrong with the people? They just had the wrong mindset when they're trying to.
That's right. They didn't believe.
They didn't believe. Therefore, you got burned. Okay.
They didn't believe they could achieve their dreams. They just thought, this is hot. And then they got burned. Yeah. So if you believe that you could fulfill your dreams, I guess you wouldn't get burned. But apparently, get this. This is what the Tony Robbins people said about this. They said, we are pleased to have completed completed another successful firewalk for 7,000 guests and look forward to the remainder of the outstanding weekend with them. They tend to do this at every event. They had 7,000 people walk across these hot coals. So in their mind, out of the 7,000, most people didn't get hurt, so it wasn't all that bad.
Right.
But still,
dozens.
For crying out loud, people, just don't do that. Don't walk across hot coals.
That's weird. I don't know why some people don't get burnt, others do. It's weird.
Or broken glass.
Or broken glass.
I wouldn't recommend that either.
They have those same walks, I think, across broken glass.
They do. Yeah. They do. And you got to believe, you got to achieve your dreams.
I think you got to, basically, it's people with calluses on their feet versus people who don't.
That's probably what it is. If you wear loafers and you don't do anything hard with your feet, but that.
I'd probably get burned up.
I probably got wimpy soft feet. Mac probably has hard enough feet. I don't know if have you ever seen Mac's feet?
I can't say that I have.
I have seen. Now this is probably too much information. I have seen Mac's feet. I think these things.
And you live to tell about it.
I think these things could withstand a nuclear blast. These feet, Mac's feet, are something to behold. Well, anyway, speaking of hot coals, Michael Ferris put some hot coals out there. He said that Trump's meeting with over 1,000 evangelicals marks the end of the Christian right. That we have been. This is it. It's over. We failed miserably because the Christian right has produced Donald Trump.
Well, wait a minute. I'm not sure you could say the Christian right has produced Donald Trump.
Well, it appears anyway. It appears. Now, tell me if I'm wrong here. The sentiment, if you see a headline like that, think about the watching world. 1,000 Christian evangelical leaders have met with Donald Trump in New York for a private meeting. It seems as though they're for him. Isn't that what the world sees?
And my perception of the powwow with the evangelicals, for one thing, I didn't realize it was going to be that big. I thought it was supposed to be a smaller meeting.
Yeah, it was a lot of folks.
I thought it was supposed to be him meeting to talk about differences and iron things out, not necessarily. It's for instance, Todd Starnes tweeted out he was in attendance, that this was nothing but a rally, campaign rally.
Okay.
I didn't think it was supposed to be like that. Sounds like he was supposed to answer, questions, which he answered some, and then some say he avoided some questions too. So, I think it was billed to be one thing, ended up being another thing, from my perspective.
Well, and we're going to get to this a little bit. Frank, I know you got a comment, but Bob Vanderplatz, Platz, how do you say Bob's name?
Platz, I think.
Platz. I'm sorry, Bob. Bob Vanderplatz.
He'll get over it.
He loves me anyway. We're friends. Me and Bob. It's huge. It's going to be huge.
Yeah.
So Bob VP, that's what I like to call him. Bob VP, what he said that he was a little disappointed in the way it went too. We'll get to his comments in a little bit here. But Frank, do you have a comment or a chat or a text?
I would just suggest that the evangelical movement has been lied to so many times by the politicians that they voted for and sent up to D.C. to clean the mess up for the last 20 years. I think Trump is a result of that. It's like, well, what can he do any worse is the attitude of a lot of voters, because they've seen people go up there and say, we're going to do this, and they've done exactly the opposite. One of my pet peeves is they told us they could not do anything because they only had a half of a third of a branch of government. When we gave them the full third of a branch,
so I'm not supposed to laugh at that.
They should have put a bill on Obama's desk daily for him to veto, and then at least we could point the finger to who the real obstructionists are, but instead we get to be continually called the obstructionists.
Well, and this is a broader question I think I want to be asking altogether, is whatever you think of the evangelical right, it's become my opinion as of late that it's kind of a bad thing. And here's why I think it's a bad thing. Not because I think it's bad that Christians are involved in politics.
Right.
I think Christians should be involved in civics. I think Christians should be involved in politics. Christians should run for office. Christians should vote, et cetera, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But for us to have a political movement, a political machine that, from my vantage point, seems to leverage worldly power, worldly philosophy, worldly schemes, worldly tools to accomplish its mission, seems counter to the gospel. Jesus Christ gives us a whole different set of tools on how we are to treat the world around us, how we to advance the kingdom, how we are to spread the good news.
Right.
Calls us to love our neighbor. There are certain things that Christ has called us to do, and we are to be living that way. And when we pick up the ways of the world and call that Christianity, I think we're somewhat and we're creating a hindrance to the spread of the gospel to people who see us as just conservatives and nothing more. So that's kind of the question I've got. We're going to talk about this really for the next 2 hours, but I want to, do you agree with that? Do you think that the moral majority, the evangelical right, the Christian right, has in and of itself become a hindrance to the spread of the gospel throughout the United States? I want to hear from you or your comments about any of this stuff. 515-244-0077 is the phone number you can call to weigh in. It's 515-244-0077. The phone lines are open now. You can send us a text at 515-809-0993. And Shayna, you and I, we didn't go to this big evangelical thing.
I wasn't invited.
They didn't invite me either. But here in a little bit, after our break, we're going to hear from hopefully Barb Heki, who's a local gal, well-known local gal, was there. Mm-hmm. I say it like she's just a regular Joe. She's a little bit more than a regular Joe. But Barb Heki is a good gal. She loves the Lord. She's involved in politics. She's a good homeschooling mom. And she was there. And she had an experience, and she wrote about it. And I read her article. And she had an experience. And I don't think she thinks what I think. I don't think she thinks the evangelical right is a bad thing.
So you're saying, I believe that she believes what she says.
I believe that she believes what she says. Yes, I believe that she believes what she says. Okay. Was that confusing enough? But Barb Heki is going to call in because I want to hear from someone who isn't me, that was there, and I want to hear her experience because she had, from what I read, a very positive experience.
Okay.
And I want to hear from her, and so she'll hopefully be calling in after the break. But Frank, what were you going to say?
Well, I think Christians ought to be active in politics, but I get a little bothered if I saw my pastor at the pulpit, pounding the pulpit to vote a certain candidate.
Sure.
Right. I think we all should vote our conscience. I think we all should participate, but I don't want to see our church leaders endorsing any candidate one way or the other.
Shane?
I having been a former pastor, I certainly see. I agree with what you're coming from. I think a personal endorsement's one thing. I don't think pastors should be hindered by the government from making an endorsement from the pulpit. So in that way, I disagree with the Johnson Amendment to the IRS tax code that is prevented. That's really squashed free speech from the pulpit. However, I know, having been a former pastor, I want Sunday morning to be about sharing the gospel, sharing law and gospel, and proclaiming from the Word of God, not talking about a particular candidate.
Do you think these tax exempt statuses that the churches receive has been used as a way to shut pastors up?
Oh yeah. Now it should. I mean, we should say, to heck with it. We shouldn't worry about it anyway, because honestly, I mean, do you really think? Well, maybe some churches are giving would dry up if it wasn't tax exempt, but I would say the church will go on if you lose your tax exempt status.
Sure. Yeah, well, that was one of the things that was discussed this past Tuesday at this big meeting of over 1,000 evangelicals. Donald Trump was the concern about losing this Johnson Amendment, this concern about losing their tax exempt status. And so here you have over 1,000 evangelicals gathered together, and they say, Donald Trump, if you're president, are you going to take away our tax exempt status? And Donald Trump says, yes, I'm going to take away your. No, of course he wouldn't say that.
Right.
Donald Trump is going to say to a room of 1,000 people who all think the same thing, he's going to tell them what they want to hear. And so my concern is, did Trump just lie to a big group of people just because that's what they wanted to hear? We're going to talk about that. I want to hear from you when we come back right here on 99.3 FM, The Truth.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money-back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
You know what this music means? It's Friday, and Chris Rohloff is hosting Webcast One Live because Mac absolutely hates that song, and I'm the only one who lets that song play. And that's actually, I think
that's an awesome bumper music.
It's the best bumper music for a Friday ever. It makes me happy every time, and I think simply by playing that song, Mac is taking Friday out because he knows I want to play the song every Friday, and I make Jeb do it, and he does it. And the rumor is, Jeb, you've got a new Friday song.
Yes, that's true. I actually do have a new one.
So we're going to unveil another exciting Friday song at some point today.
Quivering in
anticipation. And it's just not the same for our webcast viewers without the dance effects.
That's true. Sometimes I do dance quite a bit, and I was trying to look up a great Pat Buchanan quote because I think it was him who said something quite silly that I think was the beginning and the end of the moral majority, the evangelical right. And the question on our topic today is: do you believe that the evangelical right over the last 30 years, since 1980, has been a hindrance to the spread of the gospel here in the United States? I kind of think it has, and I don't think that we knew that at the time, but I think looking back now, I think that it has. I want to hear from you. Call in at 515-244-0077. It's 515-244-0077, or you can send us a text at 515-809-0993. Just send us a text, 515-809-0993. Why are we even talking about this? And the reason we're talking about this is because this past Tuesday, Shane Vanderhart, who's my guest today, he's from Caffinated Thoughts Radio, Caffinated.com. You're one of these evangelical right people. I am too. So I'm not throwing stones, man. I'm talking about me here. But The reason why we're bringing this up is because Tuesday, over 1,000 evangelicals got together to listen to Donald Trump, to understand where he's coming from, and to maybe persuade him to consider some issues that are important to Christians. And Michael Ferris said just about that meeting, he said this on Tuesday before really everybody knew what was even talked about. He said that, where did I put the quote? He said... What did I do with it? Anyway, he basically said this ends the Christian right has died. I'm not quoting him right? But he said that.
Well, he said something similar to that effect, and you know, the thing I look at, and when I've talked with some of my fellow believers, it's like where, especially I see voting and endorsement two different ways. I know there are people who differ with me on my Never Trump vote. What I don't get is, where is the line that people will draw before they actually put their stamp of approval on a candidate?
Right.
And I think Ferris's point was, it seems like that the line is they have an R behind their name.
Sometimes it does feel that way, but I don't know that it's necessarily quite that simple. Now, Shane, you and I were not at this meeting, but we have the privilege of knowing people that did attend this meeting. And on the phone right now, Barb Heki is with us, and Barb was actually at the event in New York. She is a Des Moines area resident, Central Iowa resident. Barb, welcome to the broadcast.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, Barb. So I was reading your article again this afternoon. I've got a couple things from your article that I kind of want to talk to you about. But before we go there, Barb, you were there on Tuesday. You were in this room with over 1,000 evangelicals, and you were there with Donald Trump, hearing part of this conversation. What did you experience?
It was kind of amazing to think that all of these people were leaders of some ministry from across the nation, and they are all, I assume all or most all, are solid Bible-believing Christians who know Jesus Christ as their Savior. It was really awesome to start the event out with praise and worship and singing hymns and songs and scriptures in the songs that pointed to Christ. It was just, and then the whole event was very respectful, very low. I would call it low key. There was no attempt at all to convince anybody to either vote for and support Donald Trump or vote against, and nothing of that kind. It was an informational thing so that we could all hear what he had to say in more depth and take it back and consider it, think about it, and it's just very helpful in making our decisions. And also they had, George Barna gave a lot of statistics. They had a lot of information too on elections, and we need to think not just in terms of candidates, but what happens during elections, the consequences of them, and so it was just really helpful information.
Now, Barb, you said in your article that it did open up with great songs of worship, and it was, in fact, you said that Pastor Jim Garlow opened in prayer, asking that if there be any coronation today, that it would be of King Jesus. And that's a great perspective to keep in this whole thing, is to remember that no matter what happens with Donald Trump, if he becomes next president of the United States or not, but that Jesus today is king, and he will be king tomorrow. And that in and of itself is something that we need to remember as we traverse this complicated issue, which Barb, you're in the thick of it. I'm not in the thick of it. I'm really an outsider, and you have felt
You're
first.
An outsider?
I think so. I don't know. Not like Donald Trump. I'm just a different kind of outsider. So as an observer, at least that's how I feel. You know that this can get heated and it can get nasty on either side here. Within the Christian community, we can throw stones at one another, and that's not good. And it's not good. But let me ask you, Barb. One of the things you said in the article is Mr. Trump gets it. He proved to the evangelical leaders this week that he knows what our country needs. What did you hear him say in that? What made you say that?
One of the huge things was religious freedoms. He really gets it that we cannot lose our religious freedoms. He sees Christians are being persecuted. Nobody sees that. Everybody's ignoring that. I mean, not just in the United States, but abroad. You can have Christians beheaded, and everybody just kind of goes on with their day. And he really sees what's happening to Christians, and for someone, who's not one of the conservative evangelical Christians, to see that and to get that is really huge.
And Shane Vanderhart is my guest here. I could hear him wanting to say something. Shane,
right. I guess.
Hi, Shane.
Hi, Barb. I guess I would disagree in that I've heard numerous candidates, and I got to hear a lot of candidates this cycle talk about religious liberty, talk about even what's happening with Christians worldwide. So I'm glad that Donald Trump understands that's an issue. So that's good. And I hope that if he is elected, I hope he follows through on some of those promises that he's making about religious liberty. But I just, I think that a lot of people attributed him getting certain issues. I'm not putting you necessarily in that boat, but like on immigration and sanctuary cities and things like that, like he was the only one that understood. And I was like, where's everybody at? Because I've been hearing other candidates talk about this for like a year.
Right. Well, and full disclosure, Shane, Barb, and most people that know you, Barb, know that you did not caucus for Trump. You were a long time, you were a Huckabee supporter, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So this is this is you moving forward, understanding that the candidate that you really wanted is not on the ticket. Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm looking at the two that are there, and I'm looking at what's going to happen to our country if either one of them get it. And Donald Trump has been surrounding himself with evangelicals. He named a pro-lifer as his policy advisor. I mean, that's huge. He came out with a list of Supreme Court justices, and I know everyone's saying, well, he probably is just saying that and won't do it. But, he came out with that, and Hillary didn't. As Franklin Graham said, there's hope with Donald Trump. There is no hope whatsoever with Hillary. We know exactly what she's going to do. She's owned by the Arabs. The Muslim threat is going to get worse. It's going to infiltrate our country more. All of the dangerous things we see, the loss of religious liberty. You start bringing in Sharia law with Hillary. I mean,
Barb, we're up against a heartbreak. Barb, thank you so much for calling in. We're going to move on. Thank you, Barb, so much for calling in. You're listening to 99.3 FM, The Truth. We're going to talk more about this.
Real Estate Concept Studios. This is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One. This is Webcast One Live.
Hello Friday, I've been waiting for you for a long time to just save me. When my life came tumbling down, and I know you're gonna leave me.
My new Friday song? Do you like my new Friday song? It's Friday. It's Friday. We're having 150% more fun because it's Friday. You know, it's Friday. We're going to have fun. Hey, you know, thank you so much for listening. This is Max World Live on the Truth Network, 99.3 FM. We're so excited to be here in Des Moines. You know, this week marks 1 full year of us actually at our new signal.
Wow.
1 year was this week.
It's gone fast.
It has gone incredibly fast, Shane, because you remember Shane Vanderhart.
I remember because I was off the air for like a month.
That's right. Shane Vanderhart is my special guest, our special guest, your special guest today for Max World Live. I'm Chris Rohloff, driving today. This is Max World. I'm normally here. Frank is here. Jeb is producing. 2 people of our normal crew are missing. Frank and Bob and Mac are missing. But hey, we're going to have fun anyway. But Shane, yeah, you remember this time a year ago. It was stressful.
It was. It was very stressful.
Ooh, I'm glad it's over. We got a whole different kind of stress now.
You must be dyeing your hair because I thought there should be more gray.
There should be. No, I'm actually only 21. And no, I'm just kidding. It's been hard on me. So today, Nathan Ottman from the Family Leader is coming in next hour. He's going to join us. You're going to stick around. We got a few more minutes, Shane.
Okay.
And the conversation that we're talking about is this thing that happened on Tuesday. To me, what I really want to talk about is Tuesday this week, over 1,000 evangelical leaders got together to listen to Trump. And I sarcastically would say bow at his feet, but that's not the truth because there are a lot of Christians that were there that weren't supporters of
I need to offer a caveat because during the break, it was mentioned that, you know, when Barb said he gets it on religious liberty, and I kind of disputed that. In respect, as far as everybody who's running has declared, he probably is the only one that gets it.
He probably is the only one.
So I will agree with her that in that way that he's the only one talking about it.
Right.
That's currently running.
And look, in here, kind of my question is, we're going to continue this on into the next hour, is this whole notion of the evangelical right. There's a lot of Christians right now that just can't stomach the idea of Donald Trump being the president of the United States. They think that Donald Trump as a president would be terrible for the country. And they're Christians. They're born-again believers who love Jesus and do not want Donald Trump to be their president. And then they see a move like this on Tuesday for over 1,000 evangelical leaders to come together and meet with Trump. And they think to themselves, what are we doing here, guys? Are we knighting this guy that's not good for us? And I think that's a fair question to be asked. And you can weigh in on this. There's 2 ways for you to participate in the broadcast right now. You can call us at 515-244-0077. Weigh in with your voice. We love hearing from you. 515-244-0077. Or you can send us a text, and we did get one. The number is 515-809-0993.
Well, this is actually from the chat room.
Why would you talk over the number, Frank?
Oh, sorry.
I'm going to give the number again. 515-809-0993. So,
all right,
got a comment.
This is actually from the chat.
Okay.
My concern is that conservative is a worldly perspective and Christian is not. The two sometimes will be at odds. The danger is that the two become conflated.
Right.
Yeah. I worry that it seems that evangelical has become as much a political identifier as anything, and the Christian side of this has been lost in the shuffle.
I agree with that comment very much. Thank you so much. Weigh in with your comments at 515-809-0993. That's how you send a text just like that. We'll read it on the air just like Frank did. But Shane, do you agree with that?
I think so. Yeah, I can totally see that because, well, for instance, you look at polling with Trump. In the South, he polled very well with evangelicals. However, it was self-identifying evangelicals. But you look deeper down into exit polling, and showed those who actually attended church on a regular basis didn't vote for Trump. So, in some respects, it's a cultural thing. I think it just depends on what part of the country you're in. Because here in the Midwest, it's not necessarily really that cool to identify as an evangelical. You know, I just one thing I've been thinking about, and I'm probably going to be writing about here pretty soon. But I remember reading this book called God and Government by Chuck Colson.
Yeah,
and he recommends that Christian leaders don't endorse. And just this whole thing that's been going on with Donald Trump has made me think this is like precisely the circumstance why Colson would make a statement like that, because you end up compromising yourself, and I think you end up losing, your voice. And he's, Colson called for people to be engaged in politics. He said some people are called to be in the Republican Party, some people are called to be in the Democratic Party. Bring biblical values to both, because as that person in the chat room mentioned, that being conservative, being Christian are not one and the same thing. There are points of differences. So the main thing is, I guess, to answer your question, has the evangelical right been a hindrance to the gospel? I think in this respect it has, because it has made the evangelical church, not necessarily local, there's some local churches that don't do this, but the evangelical church in general has focused far more on culture wars, on politics, than they have necessarily the gospel. And for some reason, we're thinking that revival is going to somehow come out of the White House, and that's not the case. We're seeing some of the things happen in our culture today because we've lost that focus. We're trying to short circuit. We're trying to find a shortcut to these cultural changes through politics, through the political process, and not through the spreading the gospel.
And I think you hit the nail on the head, Shane, because I think it's easier, right? It's if your neighbor is engaged in a homosexual relationship, it is difficult to engage with them, to build a relationship with them, to help them possibly understand that they may be hurting themselves from our perspective. But it's very easy to pass a piece of legislation that says what they're doing is a crime. That's really easy because it doesn't affect you because you're not doing it. And so the evangelical right has kind of fallen maybe into that trap. We have a phone call, and I'm not sure who it is, but we've got like a few seconds. So, Jeb, who's the phone call? What's that name?
Jareen is her name.
Jareen, please. Jareen, I want to talk to you. Can you hold on for just a few minutes? We'll get back to you. We're going to come back at the top of the hour. Please hang on. And Frank, you had a comment.
I was just, you and I were talking about this during the primary, and you felt a little bullied when James Dobson jumped on the Cruz bandwagon. I think you at the time were probably in the Rubio camp or the Rand Paul camp.
Right.
And I felt a little bit the same way as a Carson supporter, that I just didn't, and I know why they done it because of the Romney thing last time. They wanted their seat at the table, but I just don't want the Republicans putting their thumb on the scale for any candidate. Just let the people vote their conscience.
Well, and I think that's a big part of it. We're going to continue this conversation next hour. Do you think the evangelical right, the moral majority, has become a hindrance to the spread of the gospel here in the United States? And next hour, Nathan Ottman from the Family Leader will be here. We're going to talk more about this, and we're going to be giving away tickets to the Family Leadership Summit coming up Saturday, July 9th, because that's the place you need to be if you care about what I'm talking about. Shane Vanderhart has been my guest. Shane, you got 10 seconds. You got a final word for us?
Yeah, just people, we need to, first things first. The gospel comes first. Political engagement that's further down priority-wise.
Yeah, it's important. It's important. Hey, stick around. We'll be back with more.